Hey, Sox fans, welcome back to Good Guys Talk Back. I am Nick Murawski. This is a fan-centric Chicago White Sox podcast. You can find it absolutely everywhere. Thanks for joining us on our YouTube channel. We try to do this on Sunday nights, 8:30. You can watch the live version anytime you want. Just subscribe, head over there to YouTube, and the audio version available everywhere. Got a lot going on here with our White Sox team. Fun weekend. Not so much during the week since the last time we talked. Breaking it all down with me. Lifelong diehard Sox fan, a friend of mine for over 20 years. Pat Hester, hello, sir.
Nick, my friend, you went to the game today and you were able to get your hands on the new Indiana Jones bobblehead.
Yeah,
You showed it to me before we started recording. There you go. Run it across the screen.
Sure. Yep. You got it.
Wonderful. That looks great, buddy. You do yourself amazing things by collecting all these bobbleheads. I don't know where you find the time to dust them and keep them in great shape, but
yes, they're all dusted.
they're all
taken care of properly.
You put like grease on the springs and like repaint the eyeballs in them if they get faded. You're just a great caretaker of the bobblehead.
Why Andrew Vaughn though is Indiana Jones? Does it make sense?
I have no idea. I don't know what the connection is. Maybe it was just his turn.
It's just his turn. Well, I hope, he gets an actual, just a regular, no superhero stuff, nothing. Just, I think he's due maybe next year.
Do you ever see the Family Guy episode where the guy says, I only have to wear one goggle when swimming in my pool because his eyes are too close together? Maybe that's the one, just the one goggle across, eyes too close, Andrew Vaughn bobblehead.
They're always thinking up new things, Pat, so I wouldn't put it past them.
Maybe they will.
Stuff. Yeah,
maybe they will. From
other things,
from a Family
not so
Guy
much.
episode from about 20 years ago.
Yeah. Our White Sox, Pat, they are 34-45, so 11 games under 500.
Is that all?
Yeah, that's it. Since the last time we talked, they lost a series to Texas, which no surprise there. Texas, one of the best teams in all of baseball, and then beat the Boston Red Sox 2 out of 3. Won back-to-back games Saturday and Sunday. Now, here's the problem, and this goes into the whole, which I'd love to do, like maybe a follow-up to the buyer-seller stand pack, because we started talking a little bit about it last episode. They're still 6 games back. That's how they entered the weekend, and they leave 6 games back. So how difficult it is when you play the game of win one, lose a couple, then I'm going to win a couple, then lose one. That like 500 dance, you've got to go on like a 10 to 12 game stretch where you just catch fire, and with the trade deadline, August 1st, you got All-Star break mid-July. Decisions are going to have to be made. Maybe they already are made. Tim Anderson all of a sudden playing second base a little bit. I'd love to get your perspective on that, your thoughts on that. Yohan Moncada, Liam Hendricks, Mike Clevenger. I don't know what we're going to get from these guys before the All-Star break, if anything. Andrew Benintendi is taking on kind of a new spot in the leadoff role. I really enjoyed what I've seen from Andrew Benintendi. And of course, Luis Robert Jr. is just, he's a menace. He's Mr. Danger, and he's playing healthy too. So, we can go in a lot of different directions, Pat. Is there something that caught your interest, this past week or this weekend?
Well, it's interesting. You had mentioned that we've been waiting for this team to catch fire, right? I feel like we've been waiting for this team to rattle off a 10 out of 12 stretch for the past maybe 2 years. Is that crazy to think? I mean, honestly, from the back half of 2021, where they basically played 500 ball, and then into 2022, where I don't remember what the high watermark was in terms of winning streak was. I want to say is maybe 4. And this year, the high water mark in terms of winning streak is 5 games. Today marked the first time, I think, all year we've won a series at home against a non-division opponent. I mean, it's just interesting that this team, we just keep waiting. And you look down in the field, and DJ had mentioned it today. I was listening on the radio on my ride home from a completely dreadful golf display today at Bluffs and Shanahan, and he was just talking about, you think about like all these teams, like the Reds have just put on a show recently and gone from nowhere and put themselves in position to win the NL Central. The Cubs on the north side have all of a sudden turned it around and played really good ball over the past 2 weeks or so. This, you would seemingly think the law of averages would say, even if this team isn't talented enough to win a division, even if this team really isn't all that good and it's fool's gold, you would think they could put 2 good weeks together, and over the span of 2 years, seasons, we'll call it seasons, 2 seasons, this team hasn't been able to do it. And I honestly think that this front office is thinking the same thing. There's, at some point, we're going to put 2 weeks together over this long stretch, whether you have talent or not. You would think that they'd be able to do it. So that was the interesting thing to me, Nick, is like, we're just continuing to hang around. And I had this conversation with my dad today. He said, Patty boy, what are they going to do? And I said, Dad, I honestly, I don't know. I know what they probably should do. I don't know what they will do. And I know that what I wish they would do. But it's just weird how this division, again, is still holding up and waiting. They're in 4th place, 6 games back, 11 games under 500. And it's just like, as soon as we get close to maybe being, some going in the right direction, we go in a stretch like we have where we've lost 4 series in a row. So I don't know. I honestly, this team is just baffling to me, because you had mentioned Luis Robert Jr. and just the tear he's on. How long can you ride that? How long is that sustainable for him? We know that the slump is on the other side of this, because he has never been proven to be consistent enough over, a month span. It's usually these 2 week on, 2 week off spurts with him. So I don't know. I really don't know where to go, Nick, because this team doesn't really seemingly know where to go.
I want to circle back to your thoughts of, maybe they're possibly buyers. I thought you were going that way last week because of the lack of playoffs that we have seen as a fan base. And, why not? Why not just do it? Life is short almost. The Kenny Williams approach of screw the farm system. We'll worry about tomorrow. Let's go at it right now in some way. I want to get back to that, in a little bit, because I think that was kind of a theme this past week. I know I talked about it a lot on Locked On Sox, as I know other people did, because of different things coming out, whether it was from Bob Nightingale or other national White Sox or national baseball writers of, well, who could be knocking on the White Sox door? And you've already got some teams. You named the Cincinnati Reds. There are others that are looking at themselves completely different than what they were maybe 3 weeks ago. And now they're looking to see who's around. What arms could I possibly get? Is there a bat I can get? But Luis Robert Jr., they're 79 games in. He's played. I don't know if I'm gonna ask you just a guess. How many games do you think Luis Robert Jr. has played in this season? Maybe you do know. 79 games have happened.
79. I'll say 56.
Luis Robert Jr. has played in 76 games.
Wow, are you kidding me?
76 games.
That's shocking. I can't believe that.
Second only to Andrew Vaughn, who's played in 77 games.
Wow. You could have given me 15 guesses. I would have never came up with it. That's actually, you could have given me like 79 guesses. I would have never got it right.
Well, my point is, this is what we've kind of been waiting for.
Yeah.
So, he's hitting career numbers and everything. He's at 21 home runs now. He had 2 on Sunday. He had 3 in the series. He's the first guy, I think, all of baseball to have 20 home runs and at least 20 are doubles, which is crazy. He's making it's an airtight case right now for Seattle.
Yes,
for the All-Star game.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, he's been phenomenal. And we think about this is the guy that we've been looking for when healthy. I hope it continues to stay that way for him, because I mean, he's got superstar talent written all over him, Nick, and we've talked about it for 3 years, really, with him. And if he can continue on this pace, that's a reason to me enough to be a buying team. Now, Greg makes a great point in the chat. Like, what are you buying? What are you really getting? I don't necessarily think that they're buying and going chips all in, buying this guy or making some big move for some superstar. I just think they're looking to add in some way, shape, or form. That Rick is going to want to add some type of bullpen, something, because he does all the time. Whether it's quality or not is another story. And who knows? Maybe we need another DH, Nick.
Well, a hybrid first baseman, DH, possibly right fielder.
That's exactly what we like.
What you're buying, you're going to have to get up to where the Twins are, which again is not a very, it's not an impressive bar. Okay, the AL Central is an absolutely awful division. It's an embarrassing division. So what you're buying is you're going to have to somehow get up. So you're feeling like I've got the AL Central. And is that all you're buying for? Is the AL Central? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I'm sorry to buy into the AL Central, which is awful.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense to you and I, right? You and I get that, but I think as an organization, it's always been an organization of maybe just good enough, lightning in a bottle. We'll see what happens. This you never know type of
like just get into the tournament, just get into the playoffs type of thing.
Yes, I think that's.
Do you think they're a bat away or an arm or two away from like really not only winning the Central, but being like being a scare, like a wild card, in the postseason?
Well, I would look at it, and Greg mentions also how great the pitching staff has been from a starting standpoint, but the bullpen has let us down time and time again. I almost fell off of my bar stool chair when I saw that Bummer had a 7 ERA. Like, what do you have coming out of the bullpen from a left-handed standpoint that's really going to shut it down? I don't know that you have that. What's the answer there? And Ronaldo Lopez has been, all over the place in terms of when he's in there. Joe Kelly had on that stretch where he was seemingly unhittable and unfazed by anything, and he was locked in. Now a little bit more of the, Joe Kelly that we've seen over the last year plus. So again, if you're asking me what I think they're going to buy, I don't think it's going to be anything like blow you out of your chair. I think it's like, okay, we added this Kendall Graveman type bullpen.
Okay, and now what are you going to buy with? What are these assets that you're going to be using, to impress somebody that's
a great question.
That's the other thing is like our farm system is horrible. Yeah. And are you trading off of the only way I can kind of see it? But then it kind of negates, this is just a whole mess. It's like trying to understand the multiverse that Michael Keaton was talking about with the spaghetti plate and Flash. It was like my head just, completely exploded. If you sell off of your current roster, right, which is always a tricky decision because then you're going to have to get somebody that's major league ready back, like it's just to replace. If you're going pitching wise and you decide to let go of Lucas Giolito because all the signs point to it, even if the Sox catch fire, there are folks writing about the fact that he might be gone because they're not going to retain his services. To Greg's point, the pitching has been so good. And Giolito has been really good as of late. I mean, under 4 ERA, he had 10 Ks in the series opener against Boston. Not his fault. I mean, he had 1 earned run. He threw a mistake to Devers, and Devers had a no-doubter. But again, another pretty solid outing from Giolito. Yeah. So if you trade some of your starting pitching, which we all know you need pitching going down the stretch, you need pitching even in a short series. Well, I don't think you can be buyers and still compete, or I'm sorry, sellers and also buyers in a weird way. Yeah, it's a difficult dance. I'm not saying because the Sox are 11 games under right now and they're 6 games out, well, sell, fire sell. That's not what I'm saying. I'm almost thinking you could stand pat. You can say, look, this team, I still believe in this team. Pedro Grifo will say, Rick Hahn will say, I'm still bullish. I think, I think this team still has, more to prove. and we're going to keep this team together. Now, you're going to probably be without Yoan Moncada's services for a while. It sounds like he's not going to be back at all before the All-Star break. Grifol said that, he was taking some ground balls. It looked effortless, but he's not even close to being 100%. And I believe that's obviously with swinging and everything that entails. I felt like he had problems swinging from the right side, leading up to this IL stint. He was playing hurt for a while, which is the White Sox way. Like, we're going to get these guys to just continue to play hurt, or they'll come back, but they're not coming back 100%, and how they manage that whole thing is bizarre. So you're going to be without Moncada, which I think when you ask certain people, they'll be like, I don't care. I'd rather have Jake Berger at third. And, he's been kind of cold as of late with the bat. He hit a home run on Saturday when they had those 4 solo home runs. But, I mean, he went through a stretch this past week against Texas where he had like three strikeout games. I mean, he was cold. So, you're going to have a depleted roster from what you started the season. So are you using anything you have in the farm system to maybe get a couple we just need a couple things to get us in the AL Central conversation.
Okay, so that's interesting you say that, because let's think back to a time when we traded away one of our top prospects and we needed a pitcher because we thought we could win a winnable division, and you needed big game James Shields, and you traded away Fernando Tatis Jr., right? Yeah. So do you go down that avenue again where, man, we have a piece here that we could move? And I don't know that you don't have anybody else.
You don't have anybody. Well, no, I don't think
that's probably near that. But, the one that you might look at is Oscar Colas. Is that a guy that you could trade to get something for? But again, that's a person that, you see the YouTube clips and you hear about, and we were excited about seeing him. Left-handed power bat, plays right field, all that stuff. Can you really afford to get rid of that when that's kind of what you need going forward for maybe the next 5 to 7 years? A left-handed power bat that plays right field. I mean, it feels like that's been something that's been talked about around here for quite some time. So can that guy be traded? I don't know. Can Elvis Andrus be moved? I mean, I'm looking at guys that are, there's multiple people in the same spot. So is a Gavin Sheets, Andrew Vaughn? I mean, is that one of those guys? Is that a possibility? You had mentioned Yoan Moncada and then Jake Berger, two guys that really, when one's healthy, the other one's not going to get playing time. Probably not. And the reason why is more not based on performance, but probably based on salary. Next year, Yoan Moncada, I think, is due $24 million, which is a big reason why you're probably not able to move him. So if you're not able to move him for a couple of reasons, one, because he's not available and he's hurt, people aren't going to buy him and have to pay him, possibly $24 million next year or whatever, however that all works with the trade. And you really can't afford to move Jake Berger because you need him. Right? You need him to play third right now because Yoan Moncada's not available. So you're kind of like at a crossroads there. I think, if you're looking at it, and there's been a lot of chatter about it, like change of scenery needed for Tim Anderson, that might be the guy that gets you the most back. And you had mentioned Lucas Giolito from a pitching side, but you still need a guy to go out there every fifth day. You can't count on Mike Clevenger has gone on the IL a couple different times this year already. I don't know. I mean, what's going on with Lance Lynn lately with the strikeouts and going from what he was, what he is now, but he's just a knee injury away from sitting down. And Michael Kopech is reaching his highest innings pitched in his career. They're talking about we might have to rein him back. So I don't know if you can trade off of your starting staff.
The Michael Kopech thing, I cannot believe. I cannot believe we are talking about like controlling this guy's innings. Okay, we're sitting here. We're in late June 2023. We don't know the full limit or what we have with Michael Kopech, which obviously was one of the centerpieces when this whole thing got torn down in the fall of 2016. 2016, and we're sitting here. And he gets removed after 4 innings and 86 pitches or something. because we're getting worried at his pitch limit. That to me is troubling. Like that he does not have the green light to at least go 5 or 6 because we're managing his innings right now still.
Yeah.
That's a problem. I think arms that could be moved, everybody's looking for relievers. You got Santos, you've got Middleton. Depending on where the Sox are in 3-4 weeks, what do the White Sox need with those types of arms? Those are good arms. And even maybe Kelly. People get nuts at the trade deadline. Okay. We have Jose Quintana here, and we were able to offload Jose Quintana for Eloy Jimenez and Dylan Cease. Teams get crazy when they have a chance to maybe make the postseason. And a team like the Reds that hasn't done it in a while, they might make an offer to the White Sox that, look, the front office is like, how do we pass this up?
So it sounds to me like, Nick, like as you mentioned, like standing pat may be the way to go, because you and I are talking ourselves in circles about we should trade this guy, but we still need a guy like we should trade a bullpen guy because we get back a lot for him, but we need bullpen help because our bullpen is shaky at best. And you just mentioned 2 or 3 guys that are the most solid guys that we have. So why would you trade those guys out of off the team?
Right. It all depends on what this front office wants to do. Do they vision this year as, you know what, this isn't our year, okay, but we can win the division, so we're gonna go for it, but we're gonna go for it by standing pat for the most part, and maybe moving one guy that is not coming back next year. And we still think by doing that, since the division is so bad, we're still going to be able to compete for the division, but we have to get something for this guy that's just going to walk. Yeah. They're in a tough spot. And, Greg asked the question, is Gavin Sheets expendable? Absolutely. Absolutely. What has he given you lately where you have said, gotta have Gavin Sheets? Boy, we need that off the bench. He hasn't embarrassed himself in right field. That's fine.
A nice running catch today.
Yeah. I mean, he's been able to figure things out in right field. But, what has he done with his bat? And that was the thing that was keeping him around.
Yeah.
So if somebody's like, look, I need a Gavin Sheets type of guy, and we package a couple other guys that, to your point, are kind of log jam, they're blocking positions. We've got an Oscar Colas, if you want to give him another shot in right. They seem to really be into Clint Frazier in right field. There are options. None of them are amazing options that when you thought back a few years ago, you're like, can't wait to get to that Zach Remillard, Clint Frazier era in 2023. That's when things are really going to take off for this Sox team. They're playing with what they have, and they're guys that are popping up, and they're filling spots, and we're getting excited about some of these things. And Sydney talked about that game in Texas. How about that game with catcher's interference? It was overturned, and we won the game on that call. Hey, I'll take it. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Sydney said he'll take it. I'll take it. Everybody's going to take it. But that's not sustainable. You're going to have those every now and then, but that can't be the way, this White Sox team is going to win. They're a goofy team, and I just can't figure them out. But you mentioned Tim Anderson. Let's talk about this. I mean, we've been talking about it. Everybody's been talking about it. What's going on with him? He's got a lot of baggage. I understand, he's talked about it, his personal life. Things are just out of sorts. He's trying to get right with that. He's dealing with some injury stuff. He's obviously underperforming and never going to leave the leadoff spot. Okay. Sure. That was all lip service. He left the leadoff spot. He started hitting in the 2-hole. Then he got hurt. Didn't see him for a little bit. Was not supposed to play on Friday in game 1 of the Boston series. And then told Grifol, like, I might be able to go at second base. I'd like to be in this lineup. Grifol confers with Rick Hahn, which I love. and he's in there at second base with like an injured shoulder or something, hitting second. Don't read into anything. He's going to be back at shortstop before you know it. Saturday, back at second base, hitting in the 2-hole. Doesn't play Sunday because they wanted him to rest his arm from the extensive throwing from second base.
Oh, yes.
But he was 0 for 7 in the series with 2 strikeouts. And he had one documented error. It should have been 2 errors. But my conspiracy theory, of course, he's playing second base. So because there's phone calls coming in to Rick Hahn, like, hey, do you think Tim Anderson would consider maybe playing second base if we put a package together for him? Well, I don't know. Maybe we'll put him out there tonight and we'll see. We'll talk to him. We'll showcase him a little bit at second base. I'm sure I'm reading way too much into it because there's like, that's what we have here as Sox fans. What are your thoughts on this second base stuff?
Well, it's interesting because to me, it's a little bit it's got to be a shot to his ego, right? Because he's been talking, there've been talk in the past about him moving out of shortstop, and he was very defiant. I'm the shortstop of this team, right? And now, right? And now he's willing to say, I'll go in. I want to be in this lineup. I'll go play second. It's a little bit of an attitude shift, I guess, from what we're used to with Tim Anderson. I really don't know what to think of him anymore. Honestly, he doesn't really do anything for this team. And I know it's sacrilegious to say Tim Anderson has provided probably one of the funnest White Sox highlights that you and I could probably remember outside of any kind of playoff or World Series game, right? The Field of Dreams game, walk off, magical storybook type stuff. And it was Tim Anderson. But that's when things were fun and things were going in the right direction. It seems to me ever since the beginning of this season, and maybe it goes back to even further when Tim Anderson's flipping people off when he's on the infield and getting suspended and the diva-like actions that he would take, and then kicking off the season with Chuck and telling him how we should fan and how he should report on the team. Mm-hmm. It just seems like a guy that's completely not present. Does that seem right? Like he's not physically and mentally here and in the game, or his passion is completely left him. And again, you mentioned it with the personal stuff, and I don't want to assume that or make athletes out that they should be robots, right? If something is going on in your personal life and it's in turmoil and it's all over, social media, that cannot be easy to manage and deal with. We're all human. But I think that I've had my fill of Tim Anderson. Is that crazy to say? Am I a bad fan for saying that?
I think we all, here's the issue, right? When somebody goes to the height where he was at, couple all-star games, starting shortstop for the all-star game, which we haven't had a starting shortstop since maybe Luis Aparicio, winning batting titles, national commercials, the Field of Dreams game. He was on the World Baseball Classic stage, and DeRosa got him into second base because he wanted that energy. He wanted that attitude. He wanted Tim Anderson in the lineup. Heavy is the head that wears the crown, man. I don't know. Too quick, too fast, too much. And coupled with all the stuff you got going on behind the scenes and all the expectations, Abreu leaves and it's like zoop, eyes on Tim Anderson. Okay, you're the longest tenured White Sox. What do you have for us? How you go, the White Sox go. All that kind of stuff. That's a lot. And if you're scuffling and everyone else is scuffling, the spotlight is on him and has been. And after we recorded last week, I read something from Bob Nightingale about, there were some veterans that maybe were talking to the White Sox front office saying, I'm willing to be traded. I'm willing to go. If you're looking to put stuff together, like, yes, I'll volunteer. There were no names mentioned. And I don't even know if maybe it was saying that they absolutely went and forfeited their name, but there's interest, right? Yep. Like, hey, If you're looking to if you're looking to sell, like, consider me. Could that be Tim Anderson? Could Tim Anderson have been one of the players that said, "I just need to change the scenery. I just need something different right now.
Yeah.
This is too much." I don't want to say like I'm done with Tim Anderson. Like, I not too long ago, I was like, I really thought that maybe Tim Anderson was going to be the first $100 million man. I thought they were going to make him, their franchise player. And still, I don't know if that'll ever happen under Jerry Reinsdorf. I mean, he might be the last one in this handful in Major League Baseball. But with Colson Montgomery, and I think he's a ways away. He's finally getting back to action. I don't know if Tim Anderson is in the White Sox future plans long term.
It doesn't seem that way. It's a very weird thing. I would, nothing would please me more for him to come back and prove us all wrong. But I mean, I was with my dad today, and he said, "When was the last time Tim Anderson had a home run?" And I said, "Last May," and he thought I was joking. He thought it was a joke, and he's like, "Oh no, really? When was it?" And I said, "Dad, it was last May." Now, I'm not expecting the guy to rip off 25 home runs, but the fact that the power numbers have fallen off the face of the earth and there's no doubles, there's no
ground ball mania.
There's certainly no walks. I mean, he's not getting on base. He's not really doing anything to help the team. And we know the defense has been documented. It's honestly surprising to me. And I don't mean to just like pile on the guy, but it's surprising to me that he was the starting all-star for the American League, given the fact that he's really a below average fielder. I mean, I know it's more, what's important about baseball today is, the offensive side. No, not many people look at defense the way that maybe they used to, especially with shortstops, but he's not that good. He's not that good. He looks clunky at short. He really does. He doesn't look natural. Nothing looks like it flows right. And it doesn't look like he has any rhythm out there. I don't know. Again, I don't mean to rip on him, but I just, if I'm looking to move something, that would be the piece I would move if I could.
I feel like he is somebody that has been probably asked about, and his state of play hasn't been very good. I think maybe the front office has been a little disappointed that he hasn't been able to be on the field consistently, because they maybe secretively viewed him as a piece that absolutely could be moved. You put Elvis Andrus at shortstop, put Zach Remillard, Romy Gonzalez whenever he gets healthy, pick Popeye Rodriguez. Is he ever going to play? You brought him up to do what? I have really no idea. I understand maybe he's not ready for the show, but why did you bring him up? And really, what are you doing with him? Just to like sit him down and show him big league players? Like, see, that's what big league baseball is all about. Like, you can do that from your couch. I don't get how they manage players. This happened with Lenine Sosa last year, but if you move TA, you'll figure it out. I'm not going to say at all that this team will be better, but it's a choice that the White Sox have to make. And who is asking about TA? Who is saying, hey, that's a guy I definitely have to get? Normally at the deadline, it's arms. It's starting pitchers, it's relievers. They're looking for the horses to definitely get them through, the stretch and into a short series. Now, the way Lance Lynn has put together a last couple outings, maybe there's some folks that are more kicking the tires on Lance Lynn. Absolutely, Giolito. I think Dylan Cease is like a shoot for the moon if you're another team. Shoot for the moon. He's got controllability. He's not pitching at all like he did last year. I mean, he's going to have his 17th start here of the year against the Angels. And I mean, everything is different from last season, but he's taking the ball. He's staying healthy, and he's making his start. So I don't know. Again, like, if I were to have to make a bet, I would say TA stays on this team throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
And I would think it would be more from the pitching environment that would be moved.
That's just interesting to me. If you're moving starting pitching, that means that you're waving the white flag, which
What's a white
honestly,
flag to you? Like how many games back by the deadline?
I don't think it matters how many games it is. I mean, the division is winnable. If you're trading starting pitching, it means you've given up on the season, which, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't, it wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, how could you say you're
Let
giving
me
up
ask
on
you
the
this
season?
question. Let me
Yeah.
ask you this question. You
Yeah.
move, say you move Lucas Giolito. This is purely hypothetical, and I don't necessarily believe in this, but I'm just asking you, like, could you see maybe this happening? You move Lucas Giolito, which would be a big shot to the starting rotation. Clevenger comes back. He gets back into the rotation. Then you put Schultens in,
Mm-hmm.
okay, to fill in Giolito's spot. So your top three would probably go Cease, Lynn, Kopech, Clevenger, Schultens. If you move Gio, can you win and compete in the AL Central with that staff?
Well, you put it to me that way, Nick. I suppose you could, but you'd have to. I mean, what's their average runs scored a game? I mean, they'd have to really pick it up on the other side of the ball. To me, they're probably, or
That's the other big question.
if
Sure.
if I was to guess, and I don't like looking up stats, and our interns are off tonight, I would guess they're averaging about 3.5 runs a game. Does that sound about right? If you had to guess and put a number
Sure.
on it,
Yeah.
that's not enough to win ball games. So if you're going to do that, that's a strong enough pitching staff, yes, I think, to compete and win this division. But it's also got to have some faith and hope that, well, maybe they continue to hit the ball of the ballpark like they've done over the past couple
Okay.
games and get some people on base while they're at it.
So who you get back for Giolito would be a bat, and somehow you insert that bat in. And again, I have no idea how this would actually work, but that is a way I could see selling and kind of also buying with still being competitive in the AL Central. And if that's your only goal is to win the division, so we can get the hats, the t-shirts, and see playoff baseball, because we haven't seen a lot of it, and say Pedro Grifol, my guy, won a division, I could see that maybe being a path.
So
But
it's got
I
to
don't
be a right
believe that
fielder
that's the
then.
right way to do it, because I think we all were looking for more than just a division. We were looking to win an actual series. How about winning an actual series
Yeah.
during this whole situation? And that to me means they would have to make up for so much with whatever they're going to get back. It doesn't seem like we've got the assets and we're going to be able to do that while also competing. I mean, bottom of the league and on base percentage. I mean, the chase rate is ridiculous with this White Sox team. They don't take pitches. They don't take walks. They don't score a lot of runs. They were awful with runners in scoring position this past weekend. They took 2 or 3 from Boston, but you hit 4 solo home runs on Saturday, and Luis Robert Jr. was a beast. But hey, pitching was really good on Sunday too. Tanner Banks and Schultens gave you 4 good innings, which I liked Schultens. So I love these types of conversations. I really do. They're maddening and they make your brain hurt and they frustrate you even more. But they're so hypothetical and they're so like what this, I think, podcast was founded on so many years ago. Is these are the types of things you and I would have conversations about, Pat, like in 2000, whatever, 2003, 2004. We'd be at Buffalo Wild Wings in the burbs, just trying on a cocktail napkin, probably like drawing out how we think things could go. And the whole, maybe the buy, Pat, for maybe the future brings me always back to the Freddie Garcia thing, where they bought and they traded for Freddie Garcia in like early-ish mid-June 2004. They were hanging around the AL Central. They were like 4 games over 500. They were in the conversation. They trade for Freddie Garcia. 10 days later, they sign him to a 3-year extension. And the Sox obviously don't make the playoffs in 2004, Guillen's first year as manager. But what did Freddie do for us in 2005? So that's an angle for it too.
It's going to be fascinating to see how the rest of this first half, kind of plays out as we get into the All-Star break, and then eventually the trade deadline to where this front office, the clown show that is this front office, and the decisions that they want to make, and whether their futures depend on it, right? Are they making decisions based upon, is my job at stake? Probably not. But maybe they think it is finally, after, Kenny's been at the helm for 20 plus years, that maybe his work hasn't been enough. And maybe it is time to be aggressive. And maybe it is time to, think outside the box and put all the chips in to try and win this division. It's going to be interesting. But you mentioned, what do you get? What are you going to be adding? You're going to be adding a bat. You had mentioned a couple of things. We're not patient. So you have to find somebody that's patient. You probably have to find a lefty, right? Because we don't have balance enough in this lineup in terms of power. You're going to need somebody to play an actual position. So it can't be a DH, because we have enough DHs. So you're kind of limited in what you're actually looking for. That limits the amount of, trade partners that you're talking to. So it's going to be very difficult to say, oh, this is exactly what we need, and this is exactly what we're going to give up, and everything's going to be hunky dory. It's going to be, whatever Han and Kenny are actually making, they're going to have to earn it over the next couple months, because this is like, really, what they probably want to do is walk downstairs and say, can you guys just, we told everybody at custom levels. Can you do that? Can you just do that? And we'd be just fine.
If they were, if they were 2 games back in the AL Central, and I don't know, like you had a healthy Moncada and he was raking, and obviously Luis Robert Jr. kept it up, and Anderson was hanging around maybe a 270 average. He was getting on base. He had a handful of home runs and was healthy. I'd say you'd have a healthy squad, and you've got healthy pitching. Why not? Go ahead. You're 2 games back. But with all these question marks from the pitching standpoint, the bullpen, Crochet on the IL, Hendricks, I don't know what we're going to get back from him when he returns. And, the offensive stuff, I don't see 11 games under. Thankfully, they don't have to make that decision now, but 11 games under, 6 games back. Like, join the club. If of all the other teams that are in that situation that think that they're competing and that they're buyers, and you had a great point. It's like, well, it's got to fit. It's got to fit perfectly with who you're going to be trading with and dealing with, that they have what you need to accomplish your goals. And that just shortens the list even more.
And typically, I mean, it doesn't seem like, and maybe I could be wrong, it doesn't ever seem like it's, starting player on your team for a starting player on their team. Usually it's prospects, a starting player for a prospect, coming back. And that's
at the trade deadline. Sometimes in the off season, it's player for player, roster spot for roster spot.
But it's a team that it's not going to make it. They've got somebody making a lot of money, or a lot of money for that particular team. Maybe they don't pay a lot, and they've got assets that they want to accumulate because they want to start building for the future. It's typically not starter for starter, which again, I think you're trading off of this roster, and you'd need a starting player in return.
Sox are going to head out west now, Pat, which is can be a nightmare.
Let us pray.
Last time we saw the Angels, it was on the south side, and Shohei Ohtani's home run against Lynn might not have landed yet. It might be still somewhere up there above, hanging just in the stratosphere. It might have, it might have made its way into Lake Michigan by now.
Is that right? Maybe.
Yeah. But they're going to go to LA. They're going to play Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I think that's a 4-game series in LA.
Yes, you're absolutely correct.
And then a weekend series against Oakland. And you might say, well, it's Oakland. They're a joke.
Never.
Don't.
Greg says it in the chat. Three versus Oakland, baby. Let's go. Never. No. I've seen too many games in Oakland, staying up until midnight, hoping the game will end in a victory, and somehow it's like playing in the old Metrodome out there. Bad things happen in Oakland.
Yeah, I mean, we handled Oakland pretty well last year, but I mean, there have been years where Oakland hasn't been very great, and we go out there and we just and we had a pretty good team, and we just get manhandled. Stuff happens in the Oakland Coliseum. It's been bad news. And Oakland, man, they're playing with house money in a weird way. They're like, look, no one respects us. Like we probably don't have a franchise, in the next couple of years. This thing's going off to Las Vegas. We tried, look, we're just gonna try to embarrass people. I don't know what the team chemistry is out over there. If they're gonna hang tough and they're gonna just try to spoil people's seasons. Like, let's just have some fun. Let's just create havoc for other people. Yeah. That their back is up against the wall here, and that's where I think they're kind of dangerous. They might just not have the personnel. There might be a lot of injuries though, and all this other stuff, or they just don't have the capable players. But I can't take them for granted right now. The LA series it'll be interesting to see how the Angels handle the White Sox.
Well, it's the same old thing, Nick. I mean, this month, I believe we're a game over 500 now for the month. And I look at it and it just popped in my mind. It's like, okay, we got 4 against LA, just split there. Okay, well, again, we're still 500. It's like,
exactly.
We're just running in place. I mean,
that's exactly you're hitting it, man. It's like if you compartmentalize and you're like, oh, a split in LA. Feels good to feel good. But look at the ground you have to make up. Time is ticking here. Sydney said, Shohei on Tuesday. That'll be a fun one. I don't know if it's going to be for our White Sox, but yeah, imagine if they could beat Shohei Ohtani. They handled Kershaw pretty well.
Yeah.
That game they ended up losing, but we didn't see Shohei on the mound last time when the Sox played the Angels on the South Side.
Who knows, Nick? Let's just, expect nothing, hope for the best.
There you go.
White Sox baseball the last 2 years, buddy.
Yeah. Well, Pat, always a pleasure, my friend. I don't think we solved anything, but
I was just going to say the same thing.
Yeah,
I feel like
good.
Nothing has been solved. We didn't. I hope we brought some joy, maybe a couple laughs along the way. Sure. Maybe that's what we accomplished.
Always with this team. I think we're going to try to take maybe a break next week for the holiday, for 4th of July holiday. Next week.
I asked, I put in the request, my PTO request to you. You said it was approved. And so we're going to take the holiday off and celebrate Independence Day independently. You with your family, mine with mine, and it'll be great.
Well, one day we'll get the families together and we'll celebrate.
It would be great. It would be great. But, Shanahan, we do a lot of fireworks. I know that's not something you're into. We blow up a lot do shit around here in the
the dog.
Oh, that's right.
Thunder vest or the Thunder shirt that he has to wear, and it's not good.
Do you put it on him and then just start singing Thunderstruck to him?
No, when he knows that the Thunder Jacket's coming out, he knows that there's some stuff going down. Yeah. No, we'll try to. I think we'll probably take a break next week for the holiday weekend. Everybody will be out and about, but if something changes, we'll alert everyone and we'll get back on the old the podcast.
The alert will go up.
Yeah,
awesome.
Always a pleasure, bud. Folks, thank you so very much. Watching on the YouTube channel, subscribe. That would be great. You get the alerts, and find us everywhere you get your podcasts. Always available on Twitter at Good Guys TB. We've got a Facebook fan page. For Pat Hester, I'm Nick Murawski. Until next time, go Sox.